It's March 22nd, 2022. I happen to be monitoring at this time because I have access to a television, the news. I noticed today there was an interesting pattern or sequence over a broad span of time between 4 to 6 p.m. On the 4 o'clock broadcast on this date, they mentioned my area. They don't say Bayside Station, but they say Bayside. Then at 5 o'clock, they make, and it's associated with corona pandemic and masking. And then at 5 o'clock, they mention the corona pandemic. They show the same visual images of the children leaving the school. They show an interview with the mayor of New York City speaking, which would be Eric Adams. And then at 6 p.m., they changed the label. Still looks like English. Just on, I mean, again, when there was some, I don't know if who is in charge of districts and zoning, who's in charge of the nightly news and the labels that go on the digital ticket that go on the bottom. I don't know if it's been an enhancement that's now to the field reporter to make changes. Again, I'm not certain. But at the 6 p.m. news, it changed from Bayside to Oakland Gardens. Because I know in certain, I don't know if it's certain federal databases, if it's certain zoning districting, not quite sure. In the 55 zone of Somebody Special, where they keep those really tall, handsome professionals, I believe they go by district and zoning. While there's a crossover verb or word, verbiage here in a 22 area or zone or whatever, it goes by, I've noticed myself, because I don't study the 55 area, but I'm in a 22 area, so I do study and pick up on a whole lot more because it's where my locality is at the moment for proximal and distal whatever. Like global spatial or geospatial. I have noticed that sometimes certain areas there's not a congruity or continuation between some of the marketing and digital marketing. Again, it just shows sectors that are split. I mean, they're not vectored properly, but there's most likely a reason for that. It's that, again, I've heard people say it's above my pay grade, right? Yeah, okay. I don't even have a pay grade that I'm actively a recipient on at the moment that I'm aware of. There's nothing I can tap into and access in order to fund myself or take care of myself. So, however that works. But there is a specific example. So this is what they displayed at 4 o'clock. And it's the same reporter, same woman, same playground in the background.
Dave, we just received a statement from the city's teachers union, the UFT, and they say they support this decision, that their doctors agree it is time for the city's youngest students to be mask optional.
So this says Bayside Queen during the time of the corona pandemic, and it's at 4 p.m. the news, same reporter, background playground. Now on 6 o'clock news, same reporter, it says Oakland Gardens, Queens. same pandemic, and this is at 6 p.m. news. So, and it's the same playground in the background. But 5 o'clock, she's not displaying anything or speaking of anything on the playground. They skipped over her part at the 5 o'clock section. So there's nothing for me to report or show. It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza. It's Earth, solar system, Milky Way, universe, galaxies broken. There is, however, a part, there's somebody by the name of Torres, Torres. I knew a Torres once who was over 6 foot that Tia Frio introduced me to at some, no, Chico. Off of Route 112, some bar with John Yeamans and Desiree Yeamans. However, that connection got stirred up in things that looked like they were hungry in the eye. But that is not my cup of tea leaves, or my cup of tea whatsoever. So I politely let him know that I wasn't, but whatever. But that I met someone else that I actually showed hunger back for briefly, but in a different, that was a stadium pub, just to keep the two different sections so they don't vector, because I don't want to start whatever and whatever, however, stadium pub needs to run whatever, because there was no interest whatsoever, but the same crew of Torres is the same crew I got hit with a needle in public. I think that might have been sports theme Halloween night, where I came with no sports apparel because I didn't get the memo. But I think that there was some newbie crew sitting at a different management table for a different purpose that I didn't really interact with. But Torres had a sister. It was weird. I didn't want it to be weird, but it got weird with the things she was saying. Again, she's human. But anyway, so tonight on the news, there's a Torres. I'm sure there's a lot of them. I've seen some of the names repeat. I don't know their original origins. I didn't ask. I do know, however, on mapping of the U.S., there is some foreign intelligence that says that Puerto Rico is somehow part of the 50 states. I can't vet that or verify that. On the news program, it says Hawaii and Alaska. But again, I can't verify that either. That's just what's on the state media. I don't know what the fight over Puerto Rico is. I don't. Neither one of them are continental USA. They're US. So the rumor goes. I don't know if they use a dual flag system. I hadn't stopped to ask. I have nobody to report it to. But I've heard it before where Puerto Rico is a non-continental state, but the numbers don't align up, and I don't know what it takes for that kind of thing. Tonight, they're saying that there's a Russian foreign intelligence inside the USA. If it's a Putin-run association, we have Biden here. I think that he should be the one who speaks on who he communicate or not speak on it. I don't know how that works, but there's Torres asking that is from the not us category, but inside the USA, and they're trying to actively shut down this foreign intelligence that's operating out of here. That gets confusing because Russia has its own intelligence. So the story goes on Torres's report tonight. And then they said that We have a foreign intelligence. E per lei cosa fai? Non so. Je ne sais pas. I don't know. I mean, how does one... These are the things that nobody really knows outside of the people in the actual intelligence field. I mean, I run into humans, they say things all the time. I'm like, is it intelligent? Depends on who's asking. Like, who am I reporting it to? It really, like, for it to cycle properly, it has to be some form of intelligent unit. I just don't know any of those either. So now, that's interesting for how information cycles. How is it constructed? Why is there a foreign body national that belongs in nation state elsewhere trying to actively shut down a Putin communication facility from inside the USA? You realize Russia ends with the letters USSA. Just want to make sure we're clear. We're on the USA side, they're on the USSA side. So there is, I've got one face of Russia, I've got one face of USA. That would be Biden to Putin. I know this upsets foreign body nationals with states, nation states outside, somewhere in the UN. But the UN, and whatever intelligence community seems to be getting the stories incorrect when they're reconstructing and actually building a safe network, considering the amount of foreign nation business states that have seemed to just make residents and nobody can really account for how or why. I mean, when you ask individuals that are responsible for states inside the Stati Uniti, les États-Unis, the United States of America being the North American corridor that I speak of as USA. Again, this is an ongoing plight. They do take direction when they, whatever, at some level, but I don't know who to communicate with because I've been left in this state of nothingness for so many years and so long. It's almost like, okay, sit down, kiddo, think about it. How do you not piss off the people who are the professionals and have been in charge? How do we redefine it from maybe they've been in an argument their whole entire life over something they were told but doesn't necessarily make sense? Then I was talking to Lou at dinner because it's like my only sounding board, and I'm like, oh God, help me. And he's like, I'm like, so who are your new followers, Lou? And he's like, because he keeps telling me that they're like unreliable, they just don't show up. And I'm like, well, what do they call themselves? He's like, I don't know, like X next level. I go, X next level? I was like, no. I was like, I'm Generation X, Lou. He goes, I don't know, are they Generation Z? I go, definitely not. I was like, they got to be the Generation Y. Because they're constantly walking around going, why? I mean, I feel their pain. I mean, they want answers, and everybody else is like, what knows? Right, yeah, go with that. So, it's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza, it's Earth, solar system, Milky Way, universe, galaxy is broken. It's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361. I'm going to see if I can find Tora's piece about foreign intelligence and the Russian intelligence that they want to shut down. I'm like, now who would give them that authority? When you are, in fact, by nature, I can look at you and tell that we're trying to build a sense of structure and safety for the family and the estate owners of the White House and their ancestors. And there are specific pieces that are trying to tear it apart from within and from without. It's really an ongoing endeavor of constantly trying to build and fix the pieces that all of these newcomers keep trying to add or take away. Now, before I go to Torres, this is interesting. This is where my mom grew up. She no longer lives there, but that's Elmont. This is an MTA construction and development. The UBS I think, or it's USB, I don't know, yeah, UBS, built something in where she grew up near the Belmont racetrack, but it's Elmont, Elmont, and that's where my grandfather Clifford. That's also where Andy
I'm sorry,
McClurg lived.
real quick, you just.
And then this, at the 4 o'clock section of the news, goes straight into Torres, who I don't know how he calls himself a congressman. I have no idea what that process is or how he got to speak of himself that way. I don't know what entitles someone, if that's like a course they pass, if it's a form they fill out. Again, the education in this system has been very concerning and lacking or missing.
UBS Long Island Railroad Station, the MTA says the overpass installed over the weekend will allow customers to safely cross between the eastbound and westbound platforms once the station is complete. Crews had to work fast in between running trains to get the 85-ton bridge in place in less than 2 hours. It's designed to be wider than a regular LIRR overpass in order to accommodate the large crowds expected when the UBS Arena is hosting events.
New York Congressman Richie Torres today pushed for a federal investigation into the Russian diplomatic compound in the Bronx due to reports of espionage.
Given everything that is happening in the world, we in the Bronx can no longer afford. We can no longer afford to have the war crimes of Vladimir Putin aided and abetted espionage in our own backyard.
That's interesting, considering the face and the messenger of that message is actually inside of a nation as a, I don't know, do you call them guests? Do you call them intruders? Are they on residency allowance? I don't know what the proper term is because, again, I'm not part of that section of the theater. At War Theater and moving sections of whatever around, being there is people who are responsible for it. They just haven't informed me of the words they're comfortable with and sounds. But by the messenger bringing forward this motion or trying to bring forward this motion, it poses a real risk for some of the rest of us who are trying to build the nation, the structure, and keep the family members at one even keel. And there's a whole lot of, it feels like, tearing down the more influx of these micro groups that are almost oppressing the nano management that's trying to work with them, but at other times are frightened completely of the micro and macro aggression they experience when they try to enforce the laws or the safety procedures that they were given from the inner family of the USA, which has some working familial. I mean, there was always czars and royalty in both of the large sections of the theater between North America and Eurasia. I don't understand when that fell under besiegement, but here we are. This is the year 2022, and there's some real serious issues in my section of the theater, which is just one S in USA. I know over in the MEU space CO that I saw yesterday, he's over closer to the USSA with an R in front of it. Just for semblance of symbols, symbology for one geographical. I also saw, by the way, tonight they put up that that Ukraine for a girl with the pearl earring who has multiple features and doesn't want to upset or get tangled in the wrong thing. But I did see that the boys that were Alexander's age, they were moved from Donbass region to Kiev, and they were given maps which I greatly appreciate, that you didn't just move them and displace them completely where their geospatial is totally taken out of context. They actually were given a room and 2 teachers. It was a small class, which was great. And they actually got to study a smaller globe, and they actually got to study a flat map of their one puzzle piece to show where they started to where they ended. And they're learning some geography, is what I heard. So this way they keep up that generation's knowledge, at least at a small theater, for participation in whatever comes next. I didn't, of course, I was a girl, but I didn't get that level. I don't know where my Born 4 was contracted to, but I wasn't given that level of geography as a girl, which was fine for me as long as wherever he was contracted, I got to go to. But that didn't happen. So here I am. It's Earth, solar system, Milky Way, universe, galaxy is broken, and it's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361. Those little signs of generosity really go a long way, so I greatly appreciate whoever allowed them to have that. They're in a small group, but they're of a special, for me anyway, a special meaning.